Hello, everyone. This is Dr. Victoria Skirbo speaking to you from the Seeds of Transformation Healing Center in Wareham, Massachusetts. I know you've all been waiting for this. It is time for high tea with Reverend Denise Roberge. Hello, Denise.
Hello, good morning, Vicki. Good morning to everyone. Hi.
So, the heat has broke. The humidity is broken here in Massachusetts, and so Denise and I can actually speak to each other without sounding like we're speaking in tongues. Like,
So true. It's
oh,
been unbelievable. It really has.
I know we really can't complain though, because there are places that are even worse, but you know, we're not really heat people, are we, Denise?
I'm not really. I loved the spring all the way up until a week ago. The weather's been gorgeous,
Yes.
like perfect, 78, low humidity, beautiful. And then all of a sudden, boom, the humidity and the oppressive heat.
Right. Right. And oppression of heat just makes the social oppression that we feel just that much worse.
Well, I think it
It's
drains
like,
us of a little bit of energy. We have less energy to deflect. I'm longing to say a bad word. I'll say BS.
yes. Yeah, yeah. Well, it's like there's something about the humidity. It's like the air is thick with moisture. And moisture is water, right? And water is our feelings and our emotions. And so everything seems to come up, at least for me, being, somebody who really cannot tolerate, never have been able. In fact, I moved up north from New Jersey because it was cooler up here. And
Mhm.
everybody's like, why are you moving to Massachusetts? You don't know anybody up there. I'm like, it's cooler, you know. And here we are. But even so, it's better than growing up in the middle of the city. Like,
With all that cement and
it's just a lot of people, a lot of energy, a lot of heat, a lot of noise, a lot of it was always a little bit too much for me growing up. But
yeah.
now that I
Well,
live in,
I frequently go to New Hampshire, which is, well, where I go to New Hampshire is 2 hours north of here. And the weather is always 5 to 10 degrees cooler and really comfortable. And it gets cool at night where you can either wear a little sweater or not, that kind of
my
so
first
nice.
my I want to talk about my first trip to New Hampshire just briefly.
Mhm.
I was in chiropractic college, and one of our classmates' parents had a chalet. I mean, it was
Ooh,
literally a chalet. It had one of those like this
yeah.
kind of things, right? In New Hampshire. And, a city girl from Jersey City, I had no experience in New Hampshire. And it was the winter, and we went up, and I stood outside and I heard the snowfall. It was like a blanket of, I don't know how to explain it. It was like silence, but you could hear the snowfall. And for somebody who grew up with always sirens and people playing loud music, and New York City was right there, and it was just like, I was like, I thought I went to heaven the first time I went to New Hampshire.
Mhm.
It
It's
was,
it's really it's parts of New Hampshire, many parts of most of New Hampshire, I would say, is just it's
well, I think
rural and calm
northern
and
New England is just, Vermont, New Hampshire, even parts of
Maine,
Maine. It's just such a different, so it's just
different vibe.
a different vibe, a different, and very close to the bone. There's this energy there of being very close to the bone, which, I kind of like. I kind of like that sort of self-reliance that comes with living in places like that.
Mhm.
Um, because when you live in the city, everything is so interactive. Everything sort of depends on the people around you in a way that it's almost more important to have good neighbors in the city than it is
Oh,
in the
I would
country.
say so. I would say so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So one of the things I wanted to talk about today, because Denise and I always like, oh, what do you want to talk about? Things that have sort of been popping up in my mind, and one of the things, of course, is the rise of the divine feminine, of which I've been working with the goddess since I was a child in the guise of Mother Mary, right? She
Mhm.
was, I was raised Catholic. I was practically born in the church. Spent my first year of life in a Catholic orphanage, surrounded by nuns. That's who took care of me. I didn't know at the time. Interestingly enough, I always had a very good vibe around nuns. I always liked nuns, even when I was in Catholic school and they were like, doing the knuckle thing. I
Yeah.
still liked them. There was a couple of them that I was afraid of, but for the most part, I found them very nurturing group of women. And then as I've developed my understanding of why a lot of women went into the nunnery, I have a lot of compassion for those women. And many of them would become nuns simply to be educated because that
Mhm.
was an option for they could become teachers.
Mhm.
And a lot of them were escaping sexual abuse as well.
Yes.
So,
And it was better than going to an orphanage, to a secular orphanage.
well, when my mother became pregnant with me, my birth mother became pregnant with me, she actually, during her pregnancy, lived in a convent with the nuns. She was, because she didn't have any place to go, she didn't have family who could take her in. And so that energy of the community, of the feminine, and
Mhm.
on a sort of a spiritual level, in a way, has always been actually part of my beingness.
Mhm.
What's your experience been with the feminine in the guise of, because you were born Catholic as well, correct?
Yes. Yeah, I was born and raised Catholic, and I'll tell you, the women in my father's family particularly, were all devotees of Mother Mary or Saint Mary or whatever. I guess
Right.
she was called
Blessed,
Saint
the
Mary.
Blessed Virgin.
Blessed Virgin, yeah, all those names. And we were taught at a very young age how to say the Hail Mary. And very often in confession, when we were confessing our sins, part of the penance was to say some number of Hail Marys. And so it always felt like, okay, I confessed my sins, and now Mother Mary is taking care of me. Now Mother Mary loves me and Jesus loves me, and I'm okay. I'm going to be okay. I got that black mark off my soul, which none of which I believe anymore. But as a child, Mary was very comforting to me. And my aunts and my mother even did the rosaries when I was young. And of course, that's mostly Hail Marys. There's other Our Fathers in
Right.
there, and a couple other little things, but it's primarily an experience of praying to Mother Mary or Saint Mary or the Blessed Mother or the Blessed Virgin or whatever you want to call her. So I absolutely grew up very close to her, and knowing that she was the feminine partner in a way, well, a feminine partner with God, sort of. I don't know if I knew those
Well,
words,
she
but
well she
I
was she
sensed,
was a
I
mother.
sensed that.
She was a mother, a sacred mother figure.
Yes.
Um, in a religion that really doesn't give women any power.
Oh, yeah.
Real power, not real power,
And
not
it's no
power.
wonder the women all took to the Hail Mary cult.
Oh
Cultish.
yes.
Yeah, no wonder. I mean,
A
Mother
lot
Mary
of
was the
devotees.
only Catholic. Well, the other thing about Catholicism that was cool, and then that was very cool that I grew up knowing that the Virgin Mary comforted me and loved me. That was always a big deal in my life, and I couldn't possibly count the numbers of Hail Mary prayers I've said in my lifetime. I still say it. I have a Hail Mary. I have a statue of the Virgin Mary in my yard, and every time I pass by her, I say a Hail Mary. If I'm feeling anxious in my head, one of the go-to things, I have a whole bunch, but one of them is to say the Hail Mary over and over and over and over. And now, of course, it takes on a deeper meaning, because I know the Mary energies are all the Marys in the Bible, all the Miriams in the Bible, all the goddesses, the Kuan Yin energies. I know that they're all working in the same way, in the same direction, with the same energy flow. So now when I'm praying to Mary, I know that I'm invoking all the feminine goddesses.
Right.
But when I was growing up without Mary, I would have felt like I absolutely didn't belong there. I always had a trouble kind of fitting in with the Catholic Church anyway. But Mother Mary, oh, and the saints, I want to bring that up. I was raised with my mom believed in the saints, and we talked about saints. We talked about Saint Teresa was a big one in my family. Who else? Oh, and all of every single woman in the family was always named after either Mary or some version of Mary, Marie, or whatever,
Mhm.
or a saint, Catholic saint's name. It was required. I
Well, it
grew up
was
thinking,
required. You weren't
and it had to
allowed.
be a French version. If you couldn't use any, you had to use the French. So it wasn't Saint Monica, it was Monique. Wasn't Lucy, it was, Saint Lucille. It was,
Right.
every everyone had the name of a saint or or a female from the Bible.
Well, you were French, right?
Oh, very, very, yeah, very, very,
Yeah. Yeah.
very
So,
French Canadian, I must say. I have to, I have to admit, I'm a Canuck through and through.
Canuck.
I'm a Canuck. Canuck.
I love Canucks.
Me too.
I do. I do.
I feel right at home in Canada and Quebec, in the province of Quebec in
I have
Montreal.
never been to Quebec, and I hear it's glorious.
It's really glorious. And they all look
Beautiful,
like me,
beautiful.
and they all look like my aunts and uncles and my father. I never knew we were a race until I went there. And I'm like, oh, we are a race. They all look like my relatives. Oh my God. And looking in the phone book, pages and pages and pages of people with my mother's last name, people with my father's last name. Yeah, I was like home. It was beautiful. I thought about moving to Canada at one point.
I did when when George Bush became president first time, George W. And then when Trump became president, I was thinking of Canada. So,
Oh,
in fact, I had a friend who lived in Canada. I'm like, hey,
I
can
told
I?
my son when he was very little that, I'm sort of sorry for this now. I'm sorry for trying to direct him in the ways that I did. I really did direct him in
Oh, yeah,
ways
but
of my
he's pretty
preference.
self-directed. Come on.
Now he is. Oh, absolutely. But I never liked football. I always thought it was very dangerous, and I knew that there was always possibility, a very good possibility of a concussion and or brain injury. And I never wanted him to go in the service, so I started programming him when he was young. Listen, honey, we have relatives in Canada. If you ever need to, escape if the draft ever comes back, you can go to Canada. So he was like, he thought I was weird, but he never played football and he never joined the service. In
Yeah,
fact, he's about as anti-authoritative as anybody. So,
as his mother.
mhm. So the service or being a cop or any of that. And the joke was when he was a kid, because he was a little bit of a wild child, let's say. The joke was that he always wore a DEA hat, and everyone laughed. It was absolutely ridiculous that my son would ever be involved with any kind of federal agency, but so it was a joke. And he wore that for a couple of years.
And is
Anyway,
it
we're getting off topic. Let's talk about the feminine. So yes, the feminine has energies. I'm so grateful to the Catholic Church for giving me that, uh, the sense of what that means and what that feels like in my life, and the blanket of comfort and the blanket of cooperation. And Saint Teresa was my confirmation name. Teresa was my confirmation name after
Yep.
Saint Teresa of Lisieux, and I still love her. I still honor her. I still teach some of what she taught. I mean, what she had to teach was so divinely feminine. One of her phrases was, I may not be able to do grand things, but I can do many small things with grand love or great love. And I just love that. I love knowing that that's just as holy and important as doing grand things, as doing small things with great love.
Yes. Yes. I and it's all, all this the female saints, and even like there were a couple of male saints
Mhm.
that I of
Some
course
cool male saints, absolutely.
Saint Francis. I mean, how could you
Oh,
not love him? Right?
oh, he's our family favorite. Everybody loves Saint Francis in my family.
I have a statue of Saint Francis in my yard, but my yard is so like lush that he's hiding behind some of the bushes
I
right
got close to Saint Ignatius when I went to see John of God. I learned about Saint Ignatius, and he's a physician. He was a physician in many lifetimes, and he's the physician that worked through John of God, who is now disgraced and now in prison. And, so I'm not glorifying him anymore. I'm just saying, at the time, my heart was pure and I got what I needed. And, but
Well,
I got
I
close to
think
St.
I
Ignatius, and I still commune with him especially during medical things.
right. Yeah, my dad used to my father was very devoted to Saint Anthony of
Oh, I
Padua,
love him.
and he had this student's prayer that he used to pray for me every night before he went to bed, because I spent um I started school when I was 5. I got out of school when I was 26. So I I had a lot of schooling.
Oh, he had a lot of praying to do.
He had a lot of prayer. Well, it was very important to him, my father, that I got a good education, because if you get an education, you can take care of yourself. And I
He's
think
very broad-minded for a man of his generation.
he was, and he didn't, he got flack for it. His mother said, "Why are you spending all this money on educating her? She's just going to end up getting married and you're going to waste your money." But of course, I didn't get married till I was 39, so thank God. He's and let me tell you, getting married did not prevent me from making from having to make money. You know what I'm saying? It's like it was, but it was a whole cultural thing,
Yes.
and on my mother's side of the family, and this is the family that raised me, not the family I was born into. On my mother's side of the family, my grandfather was very into education, and although he was Sicilian, he was an Aquarius, interestingly enough.
Out of the box thinker.
Yes, and he told he said you have to, educate yourself, but he had like 13 children, so he didn't have the money to educate any of his children, but all of his children's children, all my cousins, all my first cousins, they are lawyers, they're doctors, they're teachers, they're principals, they're PhDs, they're all
Wow.
educated. I think only one or two of my cousins didn't get a college education.
So
And
there, I'm sorry. What I'm feeling and hearing is that the divine feminine was running through even some of the males in your family and encouraging feminine success and feminine abundance and feminine autonomy and all that. That's what I'm feeling.
well, autonomy perhaps, I don't know, but my mother had four. My mother was one of four sisters, and they were sort of the foundation of the family in a way, and they were very, for an Italian family to have the women respected as much as they were was kind of a rare. And so on some levels I was raised by rather progressive thinking, and yet pretty old school Italians, which is an
Mhm.
interesting combination of things for me to have. But I was blessed. I was blessed. I was, blessed that I had the opportunity to be born. I was blessed that I was taken care of the way, and I've always been taken care of my whole life in one way or another. I
Mhm.
mean, not that I haven't worked hard, but I've always I've always had my needs met in a way, and I've always had this sense that everything was going to be okay. And
Mhm.
so far, so good. And the kind of challenges that I've
Oh
had
gosh, sure.
over at least the last 10 or 15 years. And yet I still feel so blessed. I think that's important. One
I
of
think that shows your mindset, which is no matter what life, well, no matter what appears to happen in life, if we have a mindset of positive expectation of good and knowing that we're okay no matter what, everything always works out in the end. If we have that type of a faith, then it all looks good. Like from hindsight, you look back on the challenges and go, yeah, I see where that fit in. I see what lessons I learned. I see how that suited my path. Sometimes when you're in it, you can't see it, but once it's over, you can see it. And it's a mindset that I admire the fact that you just walk through all your challenges with grace and knowing that it's all
Well,
going to
what
work.
else can you do?
Well, you can give up, you can become a drug addict, you can
I don't know. It's
go to
never
a
occurred to me.
psychiatrist and get a bunch of pills. There's a whole lot of other things people do, let me tell you.
I was always of the mindset there was no, like, I would only like drink, or I mean take a mind altering substance, like maybe a joint, right? I mean, that's as mind altering as I got. And but I would only do it when I was happy. Like when things were really hard, I wouldn't do it because
Mhm.
it didn't seem like it was going to help. Like you have to put your nose down and you have to do the hard stuff, and you need to be totally aware of when you're doing the hard stuff,
Yeah.
so that in case you have to do the hard stuff again, you remember.
You remember how you did it?
So if you don't mind, I want to read something, because this talk is about the goddess and our connection to the divine feminine. And many years ago, I went and picked this up at a place on Porter Square in Cambridge called Arsenic and Old Lace.
Oh, I've heard of it.
And it's the charge of the goddess.
Please
So,
do.
okay, so it says, hear the words of the star goddess, the dust of whose feet are the hosts of heaven, whose body encircles the universe. I, who am the beauty of the green earth and the white moon among the stars and the
Mm.
mystery of the waters, I call upon your soul to arise and come unto me. For I am the soul of nature that gives life to the universe. For me, all things proceed, or from me, all things proceed, and unto me they must return. Let my worship be in the heart that rejoices, for behold, all acts of love and pleasure are my rituals.
The bird agrees with that.
That was actually a cop car. Uh,
Oh, I thought it was your bird.
no. Let there be beauty and strength, power and compassion, honor and humility, mirth and reverence within you. And you who seek to know me, know that your seeking and yearning will avail you not unless you know the mystery. For if that which you seek you find not within yourself, you will never find it without. For behold, I have been with you from the beginning, and I am that which is attained at the end of desire.
Mm.
Very
Oh my
powerful,
goodness.
very
Powerful.
powerful words.
I'm getting the urge to go get one of my goddess statues to show. Is that okay with you?
Absolutely.
Okay,
Yes,
don't
go
show
right
me on
ahead.
camera walking away. I'll be right
Well,
there.
I'll have to keep talking then.
Keep talking.
So I will.
I'll
Okay.
hear you. I just have to go get something.
Okay. So I actually did that charge of the goddess at my wedding with Michael. Um, my whole entire Italian Catholic family was sitting in a garden, not in a church. There was not a priest, but a priestess of Melchizedek. And this was part of the ceremony that I created. I had people say the charge of the goddess out loud, and I had people say the Our Father out loud because I felt like it was inviting both the masculine and the feminine to my wedding reception. I also had four different people call in the directions and the archangels in those directions. It was a
Mm,
very, very beautiful and powerful ceremony.
mm.
Um, and
Wow.
it really reflected the combination of my past, my present, and my future, really.
I never heard that story in all the years I've known you.
Yeah, it
How
was beautiful.
beautiful.
Yeah, I had the,
Those
I
are the
probably
kinds,
had the,
that's the type of thing I would do at a wedding. If I met someone like you and I was marrying you, I would say, what's important to you? And what do you believe in? And what language do you like to use?
yeah.
And I would write that. I would write something like that. I write really creative weddings and I tailor it to the individual's preferences. So I got a wedding on in October coming up. I can't
I've,
wait.
yeah, imagine your weddings. Haven't been to one yet of your weddings, I don't think, but I would
Each one
imagine.
is very different. They're completely customized to the people getting married, and I do a good job. People like it. I like to. I'm a writer anyway, and I like to write, and I love ritual. I love creating ritual. Weddings are beautiful to me. I even though, funnily enough, I haven't yet believed in marriage for myself. It's not something I've ever wanted yet. I say yet because I can't close my mind to any possibilities. I'd like to show you one of my two important pieces on an altar that I have that's closest to the nature and you know my house, the
Yes,
side that faces the dining area where it faces the woods.
yes,
So I have this lovely honoring to the goddess
I love her.
with this at her feet. So this is the grand goddess that you described in that piece, the overarching energy of the feminine, taking care of growing the planet, taking care of the planet, feeding the planet. And this is the planet receiving from her womb.
I love that.
Yeah, this is part of I have a goddess altar set up in that room. Oh, I actually have the goddess all over my house, but
I know you do. I've been to
yeah,
your house.
she's everywhere.
She's everywhere. And even people who don't consciously say, oh, this is a goddess, you know, like piece. If you go around your house, the people listening, just go around your house, look and see where you have your altars, because
Mhm.
your altars don't have to have a cross or a statue of anything, but we do tend to create these vignettes within our lives of things that are precious to us. And you can even look around, and this is actually would be a wonderful time to actually build an altar to the goddess.
Mhm.
Every month, one of my friends, Ona, who you know from watching on YouTube as
Yeah.
well, um, we do a new moon um, thing. We talk about the new moon altars that we create for the new moon, for our intentions, right? For
Mhm.
our intentions. And so we're in a very challenging time, I have to say. And I think that it's important that if we want to, there are certain things that we want to see. We want to see the change in the world. Of course, it always starts with us. We are the change. But consciously and with intention, creating these sacred spaces that you can put your intentions in is a way for us to, you know, you can't constantly have your mind on this one thing that you want to create, right? So what the altar does is it gives it a focus, and every time you look at that altar, every time you look at that space, whether it's a flower arrangement, you know, with a little bowl with a couple of coins in it and maybe some, you know, the feng shui thing, there's ways to create um abundance by, you know,
Openings.
having a space for that. So
Mm.
if we can make these small spaces in our lives, I think that it will help us to actually create the world that we picture in our minds, right?
Mhm.
We're in the dark of the moon right now, which is a very sacred time that we're speaking. The moon is in Cancer, the sun is in Leo. The sun is the planet of Cancer, the sun is the planet of Leo, and this combination is like pre-birth, right? It's like pre-birth. And we have this new moon coming up in Leo, which is very, very powerful, which is happening tomorrow. And so this is a time to create and to focus your intention. The sun, Leo, is our ability to express our divine self. The Leo is ruled by the sun. It's our spark of the divine that lies within each of us, and we have an opportunity to let that expand. And what you want to do is you want to focus on what it is that you want to bring into the world right now, and we can, through our conscious attention, bring great change,
Yes, we
and in
can.
certain cases never have to leave our house. I mean,
Absolutely.
not everybody has to be out there
The picket line.
on the picket line,
Mhm.
but we need to have create the space for that to be safe, and you can do all that through ritual. And I think it's an important thing to have these rituals. And if anybody who's listening has rituals that they find to be helpful, if you'd like to share them with us, we'd be happy to have them out there.
Let's expand our understanding of the power of intention and the power of ritual. And usually there are intentions involved in rituals. So
Always. Well, that's the focus. I
that's the
mean,
focus, right?
one of the things, I was born Catholic, raised Catholic, went to Catholic school, taught Sunday school, but I'm really a pagan. And so paganism is that connection to the earth. So it's sort of bringing heaven to earth
Yes.
and connecting it all. And we have so much, if we were to just talk to the earth and say, why are you so pissed off? There's a reason, I'm sure. You know what I'm saying? So we can change things using our consciousness, that especially for those people who are more aware of the possibilities of the expansion of their consciousness.
Mhm.
It's like when you have a higher view, you have to utilize all the tools that you have
Mhm.
so that higher view supports the change that's necessary. especially for those who don't have the view yet. They haven't
Right.
made it up the side of the mountain, but they're seeking, and it's important for us to shine our light. Would you like to maybe pull some goddess cards for us?
I would love to do that. And I would also love to, just before we do that, I would like to talk about some of the concepts and ideologies that the divine feminine brings up in me that I think of as divine feminine and that I use when I set intentions. Uh, and I'd like you to, if I miss anything, to certainly pop in and correct me or add something. But I think of the divine feminine as the force that births cooperation and harmony and creativity and new things, new ideas. I see her, the divine God, feminine, the divine aspect of the goddess, meaning the feminine part of the overarching God, that I don't see them as two separate things. I see them as facets of the same thing. I'm not sure if everyone believes that, but that's okay.
Well,
Um,
it's the yin and the yang of the divine, really.
Certainly, yes. So I see humility like as a feminine virtue, and I don't mean putting yourself less than at all. I mean being open to the wonders and being open to learning and knowing that you don't know everything, and being open to the lessons that are being brought to us, and the love that's being brought to us, and being open to sharing that with others. Sharing is a feminine concept. um, there are more and more females leading businesses that they call themselves female centered businesses or whatever, that don't have a hierarchy. So something with a cooperative arrangement where people have equal say is on the rise in business. It's still not in the power seat yet, but it's coming. So I see the divine feminine coming in through business as well. And the idea that co-parenting, of two parents having a child, whether they're together or not, both of them taking equal amounts of care of the children. Care of children is a feminine concept. Men often get in touch with their feminine side for the first time through becoming a parent. So those are just some ideas. I could go on, but those are some ideas that I have about the feminine, that the energies of the earth and the energies of the cosmos that we have access to when we're creating an intention and we're setting a vision, we're projecting a vision forward of what we want to see. These are the things that are included. So when we want to see things cooling off politically, we want to imagine a government.
Everything just cooling off. How about
There you
everything
go.
cooling off?
I
The
like that.
weather, the anger, the
Yep.
the
Everything becoming
vitriol.
balanced. Balance is a feminine energy, but I mean, in a masculine world, it's a feminine energy. In a
I,
matriarchal world, maybe it's the dominant energy, and there aren't very many matriarchs left, but there are still some.
I was, if you don't mind, and then I don't want, this is not a political conversation in the least, but I was watching a clip of Beto O'Rourke talking down in Texas to his constituents.
Mhm.
And a woman came up and said, I've always been a Republican. I've never gone blue. I've always done red. And she says, how do you intend on dealing with the border situation? Because, here in Massachusetts, we're far away from the border. So we don't, it's not an
Mhm.
everyday thing for us. And the
Mhm.
people there are concerned, and I don't blame them for being concerned. And he said, we have values. He said, the day before the shooting in El Paso, which was his place, his state, and that I know that really, of course, affected him because it was his town. But he said that the governor Abbott had said, we're under attack, and it's up to Texans to protect themselves. And then this guy goes into the Walmart and kills I don't know how many people. He says that's not what we have to do. We have to change our immigration laws based on, it has to be legal, and it has to be based on our values. And he says if people need, they need safety, then we have to have a system that will address those issues. It was very good. And he got a standing ovation and everybody was like,
Oh, I want to find that clip on YouTube. I want to watch that. I
I'll,
didn't see
I'll,
it.
I'll share it with you. I haven't.
Actually, put it in the notes, maybe.
Okay, that's a good idea. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because what I saw in Beto is the working of the divine feminine.
Mm.
This whole idea of community and this whole idea of let's get together and talk about it instead of just making, the other the enemy, which is very much
It's not
the
division energy, it's oneness energy.
it's energy of coming together, which is the
Yes.
thing that's going to hold what's going to hold the world together, but more love and more connection and more understanding. And even if you don't like somebody, you still need to have a space in your heart. Well, certainly in your heart. It's easy to for me it's easy to keep it in my heart, but sometimes it's hard to keep it in my head
Mm.
because the energy of the head, the mental energy is divisive in its nature.
Mhm.
And the energy of the heart
That's
is,
where polarity exists.
that's right, is connective in its nature. And we need both. It can't all be a love fest.
Mhm.
We have to have reason, and we have to
Coherence.
a balance of reason and a balance of feeling. And
Yeah.
the feeling part is typically been left to the women and the thinking part left to the men. But if we start to think with our hearts and feel with our minds, we have it all. And
According according to Heart Math, we put out 100,000 more times more emissions of energy, emissions of units of energy from the
from the
heart
heart.
than we do from the brain.
Right.
And it actually is a brain. The heart is a brain. It's a way to think, but not through linear, through oneness, through openness, through love, to a way of, like a filter. So the more we get connected with our hearts, the more our minds become in resonance and hook up with our hearts. And when those are connected and in resonance and harmony, like through heart coherence, I use heart coherence meditations a lot. That fosters an overall sense of balance. So I'm gonna, you can talk if you want. I'm gonna just pick out a couple of cards and
If we could, maybe those cards can be intentions for the new moon
I
also.
like that.
Okay.
Now, I get something psychically from these cards, but sometimes I prefer to, or in addition to, I like to use the explanation because honestly, I do not know all the goddesses. So I may use a combination this is the book. This is
That's my favorite of her deck.
Doreen Virtue Goddess Guidance
Yeah, we
cards.
use those.
And
That
she's
was, I think,
disowned them, but I haven't.
yeah, I know. Well, that's okay. Who cares? Uh,
Yeah, who cares?
it doesn't mean that
No.
they've helped millions of people. It was my first deck of hers that I purchased.
Oh, really?
Yeah, the
I think
first one.
one of the angel decks was one of her angel decks was one of my first ones. Okay. So the three cards that I picked, I'll just give an overall, I'll show them one by one in a minute. Sarasvati, which is the arts, express yourself through creative abilities. So that's certainly a feminine topic we
And
already discussed.
perfect for Leo, the sign of self-expression,
Yes,
and
yes.
creativity.
Yep. The
And
next one.
fun, by the way. Let's
Oh,
not
fun.
forget the new
Yay.
moon is about fun. Go ahead.
I'm having fun this new moon.
I know
I'm,
you are.
I'm going to New
We're not
Hampshire.
going to talk about it though.
No, I'm going to New Hampshire. I'm going to have fun out in nature.
I know about your
Yeah.
fun. I
Well,
know
they
you do.
don't.
That's okay. I'm smiling. Go ahead.
Artemis is a guardian. You and your loved ones are safe and spiritually protected. You were just talking about that, right? Mm. And the third is Ixchel, medicine woman. You are a channel for divine healing power. Mm.
Take that in,
Wow.
everybody.
So much of what we talked about is in these cards. So what I see and what I feel is that it's let us all set intentions for using our own God-given, goddess-given gifts of creativity. Now that could be creative parenting, that could be creative gardening, that could be creative painting, writing, any dancing. I mean, anything, whatever it is that we do that feels inspired is actually magnifying the divine feminine into the world. What we feel, what we do. I just had a reading, and for the first time I was given these words in channel that I'd never heard before in my experience, I'm sure someone said it before, but I haven't, is that the hands are an extension of the heart. When you hold your hands out, the heart, it opens the heart. So the hands are an extension of the heart. So when you're creating something with your hands, you're extending heart energy throughout the project and throughout the world. So creativity heals. Creativity heals. So the arts are anything, whatever your art thing is, music. This card depicts a lovely lady playing some sort of guitar or something with a
Maybe
swan
a
and a lotus
sitar.
at her
Is that a
feet.
sitar? Yeah, it's a sitar.
Sitar, right.
Sarasvati.
Hmm.
Sarasvati.
So now I'm going to move on to Artemis. You and your loved ones are safe and spiritually protected.
Yep.
Now, this is
Talk,
perfect for
talk about intention, right?
I was just going to say that this is a perfect depiction of setting intention. She's got her arrow poised to her target, and the fire magnifies all the intention and transmutes negative energy as well. So maybe, I mean, this is a picture of an intention, really, a picture of a scene that could be.
And the deer in the background. I think it's a deer, or is it her hound? I'm not sure.
It's a deer.
It's
It's a
the
deer.
deer. Deer is the power of gentleness.
Yes. Yes. So I think that one thing that blesses everyone that comes to this understanding and it is that we are always safe, we are always guided, we are always protected, we are one. And what we need to do to gain momentum on being who we want to see in the world and doing what we want to see in the world and is all about setting intentions. Around a fire is a great way to set intentions. That's a beautiful
And
way.
Leo is a fire sign.
So
So
for this
perhaps
moon, a fire would be a great idea.
as long as it's safe, because hasn't been a lot of rain, so we have to be very
Exactly.
careful
Oh,
about the fires that we set.
yeah, amen to that. And the power of gentleness. I'd like to also say that the power of vulnerability and speaking about and setting intentions about your vulnerability. So if I feel vulnerable health-wise, I will set an intention that I revisit my thought and intend to feel strong and get in touch with my strength and get in touch with my own innate healing abilities. And I intend to become my own physician. I intend to have physical freedom, and such as that. I mean, the intention creates forward momentum energetically. It helps us. That's why we do it, because it moves us forward if we allow it. And I think having anything to do with setting intentions all the time is good, but the moon, yes, around the moon times, powerful. So we're all protected. We all get guidance. We all are connected with the goddess. We're all connected with all that is. So spiritually, we're always protected, and it's our job to set intentions to tune into that energy of safety and protection and comfort and you know uh, being who we want to be. So the third card is Ixchel, medicine woman. You are a channel for divine healing power. Oh, look at this. This is so powerful. Look at her.
I know
Isn't she gorgeous?
yes,
So
I love that.
we are all channels for divine healing power. All of us, whether we think we are healers or not, whether we call ourselves healers, whether we get paid for it or not, it doesn't matter. Everyone has connection to the divine goddess energy of medicine woman. We all have connection to that. And when we set intentions and we visualize through the intentions where we are going and what we want to see and who we want to be and how we want to feel, how we expect to feel. We have to have an expectation of good when we create these intentions. We are channels of divine healing power for ourselves and can be for others if we so choose, but ourselves come first. So that's the message from Ixchel. Do you have any comments on any of these, on this card or any of the stuff
Well,
that
she's obviously surrounded by the forces of nature,
she sure is?
and we can be little pockets and forces of nature,
Mhm.
and listening to what the thunder says and the lightning is showing us, and
Yeah.
the sounds of the water, connecting ourselves with the earth that we walk upon, and and yet keeping our minds open to the what in the tree of life. We have the first Sephiroth at the top, the crown. Kether is divinity. It's the beginning of all beginnings. That divinity through the lightning flash goes to the next Sephiroth, which is Hokmah, which is wisdom, the divine masculine. It is the place of force, and then it moves over the path of the Empress card and the tarot to Bina, which is the divine mother in its form. And creation is force and form in balance with the intention of the divine. And we it's not, when we see people being all about force, and we see that in places like Syria and the Ukraine and these places where the ability to destroy is just reigns supreme in a way.
Mhm.
um it's imbalanced, right? And so this balancing of the masculine and the feminine within us, it's not about women and men necessarily. It's just that women tend to, be more aware of their feminine nature
Mhm.
because they're female and they have the capacity to create life, which needs to be their choice, right?
Yes,
Um,
I would agree with that.
right. And so and then we have the masculine who goes out and explores and finds new and hunts for food and helps to support. So we need both. It's
Mhm.
just that it's so out of balance now, that uh, it seems like, you know the world has gone crazy. But
The world is out of balance in so many ways. That doesn't mean we have to be out of
that's
balance.
right. And the more
We,
balance we find within ourselves, the less the world needs to be out of balance. They want us to think we're powerless, but we are
and the less
so.
we will view, we have to view everything as out of balance and believe it. We have, I mean, if you look at the facts, yes, but if you look at the energies of the
But
beauty in the
but
world.
the facts are procured. Remember, the mental stuff is procured through the media that is
Mhm.
giving us the information, and
Which is
that
way
is
out of balance.
which requires us to go within to find the balance within ourselves. As each one of us finds the balance between the masculine and the feminine, balance goes out into the world, and our world becomes a balanced place. And that's really where it starts.
That's what
Just
the
like
new earth is all
charity,
about.
balance starts at home, and it
Mhm.
starts in the home of your heart. This is the
Amen.
place. This is our power. This is our power. Love is the power of
And we
connection.
also have the power, informed from our heart, we have the power to speak our truth through the heart chakra. And we need to speak what we believe and say what we wish to see in the world and
Well,
give voice to it.
energetically, the path of the Leo is located in the throat.
Mhm.
That's where Leo is located on the tree of life. And it is about speaking from our heart. It's in order for if we go from the root up, we have to pass through the heart before we get to the throat, right?
Yes, yes.
And so you have to speak from a heart-centered place, as
Mhm.
opposed to going from like the solar plexus to the throat,
Or
which,
from the head to the throat.
right,
Yeah,
right.
that's not
That
necessarily how.
there's some people do, some people have their energy here and here, and but those people tend to be more advanced, perhaps,
Possibly.
or not. I mean, there are powerful forces that only come from here and here that are not for the good.
Mhm.
So we can't assume everybody's, but it's really about a balance. Like the
Mhm.
whole idea of the rainbow warrior, right? Is the rainbow is the chakras. And if
Mhm.
you're a rainbow warrior, all your chakras are open and active.
Right.
It's not like you're not primarily one or the other. Because if you're all up here, you generally can't manifest. If you're all down here, you have no vision.
You're in survival.
So It's the balance
Mhm.
of that. And that happens with each one of us, and every act of ritual, every act. What does the goddess say here? Um, all acts, all acts of love and pleasure are my rituals.
Love and pleasure. Yes. Yes. Love
I'm
and
all for
pleasure.
that.
Well, I think it's interesting this is coming up because that topic came up in my reading again earlier this morning. I had a reading with someone in California, and that card came up, um, of pleasure. Pleasure is definitely a feminine guided principle. It doesn't mean that only women use it. Of course not. Everyone can use that energy, pleasure, but pleasure enhances all the chakras. Pleasure enhances it magnifies our heart energy. Pleasure is not negotiable. We need pleasure in our lives, whether it's sensual pleasure with our bodies, or uh, taste bud pleasure, or sense, using our senses for pleasure is an enhancement activity. It's good for everything and everyone. And I think more of us need to put it as a priority.
Oh, yes.
I know
And
it was a real hard lesson for me to put pleasure as anywhere near the top of my list. I was all,
well, as a Capricorn, it's
yeah, it
very
wasn't
like
easy for me to put pleasure.
focused on the work.
Yeah.
Um, because then again, pleasure, as we were raised Catholic, right?
Oh,
Pleasure
well,
is
we
sinful.
weren't raised to think pleasure was anywhere.
Pleasure is sinful. But
Mhm,
pleasure is the body, and the body is part of us. We are both divine and we are both beastly. And
mhm.
it's that combination, it's that special combination that we as humans have to bring heaven to earth and earth to heaven.
Amen to
And
that. Yes, that's
that
exactly it.
we do that through the heart. We do that through the heart. And this is Leo, and it's the sun, and it's our integrative principle. And so we need to shine our light as bright as we can at this time, because we are magical creatures.
And have as much pleasure as we can.
Absolutely. In fact, when we're done, which we almost are, folks, I'm going to go have the pleasure of breakfast.
Oh, that's an idea. I'll have the breakfast of lunch in a little while, the pleasure of lunch in a little
Well,
while.
I only call it breakfast because I haven't had breakfast yet. It's really probably
You're
lunch because
breaking your fast.
I sort of broke my fast with with my husband has made me some coffee, Mexican hot chocolate coffee pops for the morning.
Oh my God. Sounds
It's ice,
heavenly.
it's iced coffee, a little sweetener. He used agave, I think, chocolate and hot pepper. And
Oh, my friend made a cake like that, a chocolate cake with hot pepper in it. It was
it's
fabulous.
and it's like it wakes you up in the
It
morning.
magnifies yeah, it
It,
magnifies
it
your
just
energy.
it like wakes you up. So I have one of those pops in the morning, and I am ready to go.
That is one man that's in touch with his divine feminine. I gotta tell you,
Well,
big time.
I don't think I could have married him if he wasn't. It's it's funny, and this is kind of personal, but I'll share it because people have met Michael, who watch my channel. I've always felt like I had a real grasp on the masculine and not so much a grasp on the feminine in a lot of ways. And he has such a grasp on the feminine, and yet he's very masculine.
Mhm.
And that combination, we sort of like, he taught me how to be more womanly, and I taught him how to be more manly in
Well,
a
isn't
way.
that nice? That's wonderful.
Even though he's very masculine and I'm very feminine
Mhm.
in our
In your
in
presentation.
our
Yeah.
presentation.
Mhm.
But yeah, so I think that's pretty interesting. And I feel, as you know, it's there's always challenges to things, but I feel
Ah,
grateful. I feel grateful for him in my life. I feel grateful for you in my life. All the people who, I have a lot of faith. Faith is a muscle,
yeah.
and the more you use it, the stronger you get. And I
Yes.
have faith that the people who are meant to come into my life. And I just want you to know, as a friend of mine, how much I appreciate and love you.
I appreciate and love you dearly. I'm not, I just can't, I don't even want, if I start talking about how much I appreciate you, I will cry. So you know me, you know that you'd have to like murder my mother for me not to be your friend anymore.
And I love your mother, so that would be really hard to do.
I don't think you'd do
I
that.
can't
So
even, I can't even like, I can't even kill a bug. I bring them outside, so
I
I don't
know,
see myself.
but no, we're friends for life. And I'm really happy that we can express that to your viewers, because it is possible to have friends for life. And I don't have many.
Friendship, friendship, just a perfect blendship.
There you go. Woohoo. All right. What a great topic. What a great conversation. I want to thank you for hosting this lovely segment of high tea, and including me in on it, and including me in part
Well,
of it.
there would be no high tea without Denise.
No high tea. If you ever have another show, it has to have a different name.
It
I
does.
have that name.
You will always have, you will always be my high tea gal.
All right. I'll always be your high tea gal. I like that idea. So thank you very much. And thank you to all the viewers. And I will be putting it up on my YouTube channel as well. And love to hear your comments on how you experience the divine feminine, or what your rituals might be around the new moon. Love to hear all that. So
Yes. And how can people contact you, Denise?
people can contact me through my website, onemindspiritualguidance.com, www. Or I'm on Facebook. You can find me on Vicky's page if you wanted to friend me on Facebook and talk to me through Messenger. My email, I'm not sure. Do you usually put up my email? I don't know. It's my name anyway.
I usually just put the One Mind Spiritual
Yeah,
Guidance.
you can reach me myspiritualguidance.com. That's my website. There's a contact form. If you click, there's something you click that says like, talk to Denise here. I don't remember. Contact Denise here. Click that and you get a little page, and you fill in a couple things, and I call you back.
Awesome.
Or email you back, either way.
Right.
Thank you, Vicki.
You're welcome. And for those of you, you probably know, you can contact me at theseedsoftransformation.com, or Vicki Skirbo, Vicki Skirbo @gmail.com. So it's been a pleasure, Denise. Thank you very much
Certainly has.
for being
Thank
part
you.
of this. And thank you, everyone, for your attention and your love. We feel it every time we do this.
We
Much
do.
love,
I agree.
everyone.
Love.
Namaste.